Welcome to the show Gold Squadron Gays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars loving gays talk about and review their favorite Star Wars content while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
I'm your other host, Charles Rogers, and Star Wars Starfighter is a real movie.
Apparently so. Enough that they feel confident enough to tell us almost everybody who's in the movie.
Yes. So if you don't know, Bradley has a rule that I abide by on the show in order to stop us from turning into a ridiculous circular punditry podcast where we don't we'll discuss when a movie is announced at Celebration. But other than that, we don't really discuss the movies unless they've started filming. We don't consider them to exist until they've left pre-production. And Star Wars Starfighter announced earlier this week, as of recording this, day one of filming happened. The cameras are rolling on Star Wars Starfighter. They gave us a photograph of Ryan Gosling with an incredibly unfortunate mullet seated beside a small child of some variety, and then dropped the entire cast list, or at least most of the main actors.
Right, I'm assuming it just means top billing, or at least the...
Yeah, I'm sure this is not everybody.
Right, everyone is not here, but, you know.
I believe, this is Flynn Gray is this kid that's in the photograph. They're sitting on like a speeder of some description.
Nice. And who else is in cast?
Sure. So according to the official cast announcement on StarWars.com, quote, joining the previously announced Ryan Gosling, the film stars Flynn Gray, Matt Smith, Mia Goth, Aaron Pierre, Simon Bird, Jamal Westman, Daniel Ings, and Amy fucking Adams, end quote. I added the fucking to that.
Right.
Because Amy Adams is one of my favorite actresses.
Really? Okay.
I fucking love her in everything she's in. She's in Arrival, which is one of my favorite sci-fi films. The film adaptation of one of my favorite plays of all time, which is Doubt. It was one of her first film roles. She was in it with Meryl Streep and Viola Davis and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Right.
But I was very excited to see her on this cast list. Some of these had been leaked. We knew about Matt Smith. We knew about Mia Goth. Matt Smith is probably not playing Palpatine.
Darn.
Yep.
Or maybe he is. Honestly, we don't know.
There were rumors that he was supposed to be in The Rise of Skywalker. I don't know if it was ever confirmed that he was supposed to be in The Rise of Skywalker. This is the thing Charles didn't research. He was cast in The Rise of Skywalker.
As just Palpatine?
No, he doesn't say what it was that he was cast in. What role that he is. The role was apparently written out, like it became unnecessary. But he was almost in The Rise of Skywalker, so now he's actually going to be in Star Wars Starfighter.
You want to hear a fucked up theory of who he's playing?
Who do you think he's playing?
He's playing Triclops.
Honestly?
I mean, Flynn looks just like Ken, so I'm just not, I'm not going too crazy now with this picture. I mean, Flynn Gray looks suspiciously like Ken. I'm just saying. I mean...
Oh my God. I have ruined you in the best possible way.
But what if they decided to just like loosely adapt this in Starfighter?
They did. It was called The Rise of Skywalker.
I know, but I'm saying, what if now they're also doing it again in Starfighter?
Rise of Skywalker is what if Dark Empire and Prophets of the Darkside had a baby.
Yeah.
And it would be that movie.
Oh, we'll get to Prophets of the Darkside.
One day when we cover The Rise of Skywalker in depth, we will talk about Dark Empire and we will talk about Prophets of the Darkside. Because Chris Terry, as a Legends fan, he made some interesting choices in what to adapt from Legends. Dark Empire is weird, and maybe we'll cover it one of these days. That was the original Palpatine comes back in a shitload of clone bodies.
Got it.
Yep. But yeah, Starfighter exists. That's real. It's coming in May 28th, 2027. We should probably talk about what we came here to talk about, Bradley. We can't just talk about Starfighter.
Let's talk about other really good content that is...
Really good, he says in quotation marks. Because you were feeling Zorba the Hutt's revenge. You were
I
feeling
think,
that one.
yeah, that's my
But
favorite one so far.
I knew this back these back two books were coming, and
Yeah.
that they get absolutely ape shit.
And have we lost the plot on what our moral of the story is for
Yes,
each book?
yes, and I'm gonna mention that when I recap.
Okay, because I feel like we lost the plot on that.
We did in fact lose that plot
Like I was so
in a
in for
fairly
the save the
hilarious way.
whales, all that good stuff, save the rainforest, and then now we just were like,
What are we talking about? What if somehow people are tuning into just this episode
for some
and not
reason.
the previous two episodes?
Today
What are we talking about?
we're gonna be talking about the last two novels in the Jedi Prince series, Queen of the Empire and Prophets of the Darkside.
So, if you are just joining us, you need a quick refresher. The Jedi Prince series is a series of 6 chapter books that were published between 1992 and 1993. They were some of the earliest Star Wars books, sort of for kids, but they were also part of the very, 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 very early expanded universe. So, only a year or two after the publication of Heir to the Empire, right at the beginning of when the expanded universe had started to really explode out, where they were hiring more people to make comics and they were hiring more people to make books and all of that stuff. It is an absolutely batshit series of books because they hadn't really established what a Star Wars was at this point. We don't have the prequels, we don't know anything. I'm not going to recap the events of the previous 4 books. Just go back and listen to the episodes. All the books are available. There are scanned library editions of them at archive.org. You can also see if you can find them through your own local library. They are accessible for you to get. So they don't take long. Each one took me about 45 minutes to read through. And I was really trying to pay attention to what the fuck was happening. Yeah, I recommend reading those if you have the stomach for it, or I'm just going to summarize them. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know.
There you go. Let's get into it.
Book 5, Queen of the Empire. And this one I'm going to attempt to do the plot summary off the top of my head. The next book, I'm going to have to use Wikipedia.
Okay, fair enough.
Just because that one was so what
It's
the fuck is
yeah.
happening
This
that I
one's a little
genuinely,
easier.
I could feel it not sticking in my brain. So, Queen of the Empire. On the secret research base on Mount Yoda on Dagobah, everybody is gathering because we're about to find out what Project Decoy was from the last book. Turns out they made a robot Leia with laser eyes. I do not know why they made a robot Leia with laser eyes. They did. So here we are. There's a accident during the demonstration, and one of the 2 scientists who's working on it gets injured because they are a Chadra fan and they need to get them to a Chadra fan like hospital or whatever. Han and Leia and I think R2 goes with them, jet off to take the scientist to get treated. Fuck, I am gonna have to use the plot summary for this one because I have completely lost.
You've lost the plot.
Okay, so now with the assistance of the Wikipedia summary, I'm going to continue.
Okay.
So they take the scientist to the hospital and there's an accident with a storm. Also, Han has this moment where he's like, oh yeah, they basically are over, like they have too much livestock and it's making hurricanes. This seems like it's going to be our like thing we have to fix of the day, our environmentalism message of like greenhouse gases is the thing, but actually we just breeze past that and it's never fucking mentioned again, and that's the last one. So there's storms, Han gets trapped in a cave in and it freaks him out, and so after they leave the planet, he's randomly like, hey Leia, do you want to get married? And she's like, what the fuck? And so he pitches her on getting married, and she's eventually like, I mean, I wanted a big giant wedding with everybody invited, but fuck it, why not? So they literally just elope to Hologram Fun World, a theme park that is being run by Lando Calrissian, which is utterly ridiculous, except for one really weirdly poignant moment where they use holograms to simulate Alderaan as Leia remembers it, and she's able to bring Han to her home planet. It is weirdly emotionally impactful, and the rest of it is completely ridiculous. Anyway, meanwhile, on Cloud City, Zorba the Hutt is mad because apparently people don't want to go to his crime-ridden Cloud City when they'd rather go to safe, clean, hologram fun world. So he's like, damn, I need to send goons to do crime in a hologram fun world so that people will feel more inclined to come to my gambling parlor. And then also somebody's like, hey, by the way, Princess Leia survived the end of Zorba the Hutt's Revenge. He's like, fuck, I need to kill her. So he heads over with a bunch of bounty hunters. Long story short, they do eventually capture Leia with an utterly ridiculous thing involving a magic show. But then they're going to take her to Tatooine and they're going to drop her into the pit of Carkoon because that's where Jabba dies. Meanwhile, all of the Imperial gay Moffs, sorry, Grand Moffs, are having a Sniffies meetup, Moff friends over Tatooine randomly. Also, it is revealed that Zorba the Hutt did not actually give the real Triaculus and Carbonite to Kadan to be melted down. He has the real Triaculus. So Zorba heads to Tatooine with Leia and the real Triaculus. The Moffs just happen to find them there. They capture Leia, they unfreeze Triaculus, and the Moffs are like, well, I guess Triaculus can get married to Leia now, and she can be queen of the Empire. Also, Triaculus is like, fuck Zorba, I'm going to throw him in the pit of Carkoon. And then he does. Meanwhile, Luke and the rest of the people from the movies meet up with Han, and they also have the decoy droid from Project Decoy. So they break into the Moff ship, and they do a little switcheroo where they replace Leia with the decoy droid, and they escape with Leia. So Triaculus tries to marry the decoy droid, but then the decoy droid fucking shoots him with her laser eyeballs. And that's basically the end of the book. Also, Zorba the Hutt crawled out of the Sarlacc because he's so gross and disgusting that he's indigestible. That's the plot of this book.
So, yeah, that happened.
All that happened. That's why I needed the summary's help.
Yes.
Ken was also here the whole time, but he's surprisingly irrelevant to this book.
This book is interesting. I feel like this one's almost like a side quest. I don't know why this book is here other than to be like, just kidding, Triaculus isn't dead. But other than that,
except he got shot with laser eyes, so he is dead now.
Yeah,
well, he will be dead. Spoilers for the next book.
Right, exactly. My brain was like going all over the place with this book, and you didn't even mention one of the stranger things, which we'll get to in a later chapter. But let me just start with the beginning. So, Project Decoy, why? Why is there a robot Leia? Chapter 1 makes no sense. Why? Like, okay, we have I mean, literally, I feel like it's the same thing with the cleaning robot introduced in the other book, because I feel like you only introduced this weird thing, like, just to have it do something later for the plot. Like, and then it's never brought up again, because by the end of this book, Robot Leia is dead because they shoot it.
That's not actually true. And we'll get to that when we get to the continuity of the adventures of the Jedi Prince in the broader expanded universe. Okay. Project Decoy will at least get mentioned again.
Oh, okay. Well, right now it's just a stupid plot point and they hate it.
Right now it's here.
But fine. But also, why Leia? I know they explain it, but I just feel like, is that a good explanation? I don't know. Why is Leia even going on missions? Or it doesn't make sense if she's supposed to be like one of the main leaders of SPIN, or whatever the fuck acronym we're gonna make up today. Why does she need a decoy? I would understand if like actual agents needed decoys, or like, but why would you make it a recognizable person like Princess Leia?
So that we can solve the Triaculus is really horny for Leia.
Okay, great, got it. Okay, good deal.
That's why this is here. It's to solve that plot line. It's so Triaculus can be undone by how horny he is for Leia.
What a great ending for him. No, but I like...
Bradley just rolled his eyes, by the way. And if you want to see Bradley roll his eyes, you can sign up for our Patreon at patreon.com/goldsquadrongaze, where we have the pre-show where we warm up, uncut versions of these episodes, and video versions where you can watch Bradley's eyes roll into the back of his head.
And I actually promised that I would do another shout out because we had 2 new subscribers. Thank you to Nerdy Nails 104th for becoming a co-pilot. And then we actually just got a new one today, Simon Zahn. So thank you so much.
Hello. Welcome to the Patreon. enjoy hearing more of my voice and all of. I promise there will be more unhinged tangents as we get off of these books. Right now, I'm just too exhausted to tangent. I just want to get through these
Correct.
episodes.
I do want to mention this. Maybe I just didn't notice it in the last book, but in this book, they keep calling Leia in these last two books a Jedi, and I just started noticing that. I don't know if they previously did, but like every single time, Leia's like, "I'm also a Jedi."
So, for reasons that will be mentioned when we get to the very end of the entire series, clearly the authors read or received editorial direction to include some stuff that ties this more directly to Heir to the Empire.
Okay,
Actually, let me check something.
sure. Check away.
Oh no, this is all in Heir to the Empire. So they would have known about this. Leia is described as being a Jedi in Heir to the Empire in the Thrawn trilogy. She is undergoing some Jedi training. There are scenes in which she trains with Luke to try to master the Force. Broadly, the question of whether or not Leia is going to be a Jedi or whether she is going to be primarily a politician is something that is explored a lot throughout the expanded universe. This forms the crux of her post-movies character,
Right.
is whether or not she will choose to focus more heavily on being a Jedi or focus more heavily on being a politician. She chooses politician and then
Naturally.
goes back and is trained fully as a Jedi later in life.
Okay.
But for the moment, she's going to eventually succeed Mon Mothma as the New Republic Chief of State in the Jedi Academy books, which I'm going to mention.
Moving on to Triclops is only evil when he is asleep.
Oh, right. Yes, I didn't mention this. So it turns out that
Okay.
Triclops, when he sleeps,
Uh-huh.
has the power to design evil super weapons because they fucked up the droid for Project Decoy. But then they're watching a camera feed of Triclops' cell, and he has evil dreams and tells them how to fix the droid. And that's why the Empire wants him back so badly. And also, that's why the Empire kept him alive all these years and
Right.
didn't kill him, is because he would design evil weapons to hurt people in his sleep. But when he's awake, he's a passive.
Which hilarious, but love that he does this. I just imagine like them if this is like ever live action or something like that. I imagine him like just like waking up in the middle of the night and then just like start drawing and like making notes and like building stuff like with
Yeah,
his eyes closed like
in the next book, he will do espionage while he is asleep. He will
right.
sleepwalk around doing
Sleepwalk
evil deeds.
espionage. Love that. So in the middle of all this, Han Solo decides he just randomly, after having a near-death experience with a landslide of rocks or something, he wants to now elope with Leia. And Leia's like, yeah, sure, that's good. And they decide to go fuck off to Hologram Fun World, why it's called Hologram Fun World? It sounds like a Rick and Morty thing. Like it doesn't even
It
sound
really
real.
does.
It doesn't sound real. It sounds like, why did you call it this? It's so silly. And then even the picture in the book, when they actually go to Hologram Fun World, it like the slogan is like a banner outside of the space station or something like that. And I'm like, what the? Okay.
It's such a riff on Walt Disney World
Yes.
before, like decades before the Walt Disney Company would purchase Star Wars. Star Wars was already riffing on the Walt Disney Company. Is this the bit? I think this is the bit. So Han and Leia have this conversation, which is really like we talked about the sexism
Yes.
like inherent
I
in
was
some
gonna
of
mention
these
that
books.
next. Yeah.
The bit where Leia gets on his case,
Yes.
Han's case, where he describes them as husband and wife, and she goes, "No, you should say bride and groom because if you say husband and wife, the man comes first, and if you say bride and groom, the woman comes first." That and also the weird fucking bit during the wedding where Grand Moff Hiss is reading from like the Book of Imperial Justice or whatever it is. And he's like, so anyway, the rules in the Empire are like women are slaves basically to their husbands and they're not allowed to disagree with them. And I'm like, okay, this is a good time to mention. I've gone out of my way to not mention who wrote this because I do not want to seem like I am dunking on them. They were doing the best job they could for
Sure.
1992, but it is a husband and wife team that wrote these books. And that does feel relevant
Yeah.
to the book.
I mean, this is a natural romantic comedy. I don't even know if it's
Oh,
comedy, but
buddy. We'll talk about the courtship of Princess Leia when we get to the how this fits into the broader continuity.
so I guess moving right along, of course, during this whole time at Hologram Fun World, yes, Leia is captured by Zorba the Hutt, and it is revealed that Trioculus is not dead after all, and that Zorba just gave Kadan a fake version of a statue of Trioculus that he destroyed, which makes sense that Kadan would not know because obviously he's not actually force sensitive or knows any of this bullshit or
We will
whatever.
get to that when we get to the broader continuity of this
um,
in the overall
right.
expanded universe. But yes, this Kadan is not stated to be force sensitive, so obviously he wouldn't know.
Sure.
This one just sort of uses Chat GPT to write his prophecies and then his giant massive spy network to make sure they come true.
Right. And he just somehow missed that Zorba put a fake version in his office versus having the real Trioculus safe and sound in storage somewhere.
Well,
Which
because
great.
Zorba is good at sleight of hand, Bradley.
That's right. You're right. That's how clever he is.
Zorba the Hutt continues to be the best character in these books by far.
And one thing you didn't mention in your little recap, which is also worth noting, yet another villain is also not randomly dead. Hissa is also now just alive and a cyborg now who has like a weird half body floating
Yeah, remember
thing.
how I said he got his arms and legs burned off, but like the rest of him was specifically noted to be fine? Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah,
He's
which
just
is like,
floating
huh?
around in a hover chair now.
Which, by
Don't
the
think too
way,
much about it.
but the way they described it too was like a lonely stored stormtrooper saved him and brought him back to the thing to get like fixed up or whatever. I'm like, was this stormtrooper in love with him or something? Like, why would they care? Like, he was like a melted pile of goo on the ground, and then just like, okay, great. I don't know. It was giving MODOK from Ant-Man. That's what it was giving. Like this,
I don't
like,
know. I didn't make it that far in the MCU. Speaking of things I stopped giving a fuck about, I watched
yeah,
Wakanda Forever and I was like, yeah, this movie's pretty good. I have no desire to watch any of these at all going
it's
forward.
it's
Unless Jay Schaefer
dumb.
is show running it, I don't care. Although I've heard Fantastic Four is good, so I will watch Fantastic Four
Right.
when it comes to Disney Plus.
There
But
you go. For free.
I have no, well, not for free, but
Well, I it's girl
effectively
math
free.
free.
It's girl math free, yes.
Yes.
Well, because I have to pay for Disney Plus so I can watch my Star
Exactly.
Wars.
Sure. So the other stuff is free.
The other stuff on there is just free. Like I had
I'm
to
only
watch Percy
paying for
Jackson
Star
for
Wars.
exactly.
Yeah.
I pay my $20 a month or
Uh-huh.
whatever for Star Wars,
100%.
and then I get some other stuff as
Yeah.
well.
The other stuff's bonus. So yeah, his is just ridiculous. I love the design. I think it is kind of silly, but it's whatever. So after all that though, they finally get Dracula's back, and then he's the first thing he's like, I don't want to get revenge. I don't want to do all this stuff. No, I want to get fucking married. um, to Leia because I'm alive. I want to celebrate life. I want to get married to the love of my life that I've only known for about
That I
five
met
minutes.
once, and
One
she
time
slapped the
she
shit out of
slapped the shit
me,
out of me.
being a creep.
I okay, fine. And then this is where it goes off the rails again because Robot Leia lasers Trioculus presumed dead. Spoiler alert in the next book, he dies in the beginning of the next book. But at first you're like, God damn it, they're just gonna save him again. Like by the end of this book, I'm like, okay, so he's got medical treatment. They're just gonna save him. It's fucking annoying. And I'm like, okay, rip Zorba, except by the end of the fucking chapter, just kidding, Zorba the Hutt's also not dead. So like no one ever really dies. No one's ever really gone in Star Wars, which I should have known better, honestly. But him being thrown into the Sarlacc pit and then randomly being thrown up out of the Sarlacc pit because he's disgusting and the Sarlacc's like, I don't want to eat this is hilarious. It makes no sense, but I love it. Ha ha
Yep,
ha ha ha.
yep.
Or is that
Zorba
what
the
the
Hutt's just ha 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 ha. It's literally written out.
every
Like
time,
every time he
every
laughs.
time. Yeah, so that was Queen of the Empire. What a fun romp in Star
It's
Wars.
around. It's around. Oh, and then they decide at the end that like Han and Leia are gonna have the big old wedding after all.
Right, the dream wedding that she's always wanted because
Yes.
woman.
Yes, because obviously, what woman does not want a big, splashy wedding with
Yes,
everyone being there
of
and
course.
dressed up? And yeah, obviously, that's what women want.
True.
The passive 80s, 90s sexism of these books.
I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt here though, and say the only reason why Leia wants a big giant wedding is because her whole entire planet was murdered and she doesn't have a very big family anymore, and so like it's her dream just to have everybody back and then like be
See, if
celebrating
they'd
her.
done that, that would have made sense.
Not her just being a
They
woman.
don't
I
give a
think
reason. They don't
right,
give a
exactly.
reason. She's just like, I want a big wedding. And Han's like, I don't know if
I
I'm
don't
down for
care.
that. And I'm like, maybe you two should have had a conversation. But again, I must stress, this is not as stupid as the way they actually get married in the Legends continuity.
The canon.
No, the EU. In the
Oh,
Courtship of Princess Leia. This is not as stupid. We'll get to it
I
when
thought
we
that
get to
Courtship of
the
Princess
end of the
Leia is a
book.
canon novel.
It is not. You're thinking of The Princess and the Scoundrel.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. You're right. Okay, just kidding.
Princess and the Scoundrel is where they get married and they go on the Walt Disney
The
Cruise
Walt Disney
Liner
Cruise Line.
registered trademark
Right.
for half the book. Yes.
I kind of love that. That's just a big ad
It's a huge
for
ad
the
for the
now
Halcyon,
defunct hotel.
for the now defunct hotel. Yep.
Anyway, honestly, Queen. Okay, so final thoughts on Queen of the Empire. It's not that bad. It is a silly little Han Solo and Leia elope, but then also we have to have random plot for the other characters. Basically, it was all just a lead up just so we could fucking kill Trioculus again. I don't know why, because I guess he's not really the big bad of the series after all. It's Kadan, so it's, but also not. I don't know. That's just, I guess that's why we did this.
I should also mention that there is some discussion, I think, in this book about how Ken thinks that Obi-Wan Kenobi might be his father.
Oh, they do kind of seed that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They kind of see that in there that Ken sort of is like, I think I'm named after Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think Obi-Wan Kenobi might be my father.
Right.
Put
Put
a
a
pin in
pin in
that. We will get to
that.
that. So, about to launch into my recap of Prophets of the Dark Side. And I have to say, Bradley and I have bent over backwards not to talk about the plot twist in Prophets of the Dark Side. So, if you have enjoyed the 5 books up to this point, our coverage, and you really do want the experience of finding out where this is going, go track the books down and read them. They will not take you long, and come back, because really nothing beats the impact of getting to some of the plot reveals in Prophets of the Dark Side of where this series was going the whole time. Okay, that was your warning. So Triclops fucking dies at the start of it. He just fucking dies in Grand Moff Hiss's arms, his gay bestie, and he's like, avenge me, tell my story, kill Luke Skywalker. Meanwhile, the rebels are back on Yavin 4 for some reason, but also, like, I was a little unclear when they were on Dagobah and when they were on Yavin 4. Also, there's a lot of random stuff where Leia is like planning her wedding and they're confused about where people should sit. There's several random digressions where they're talking about like seating arrangements at Leia and Han's wedding. But the important thing is that while they're continuing to spy on Triclops, they realize that now that he has access to the base, that he has been like stealing files from the base when he's sleepwalking. And it's because he has an implant in his tooth that he can transmit to probe droids that are swooping down and picking up the data and sending it to Kadan. So they're like, well, damn, maybe we should build something to deal with these probe droids because we can't just keep shooting them down. And Ken's like, oh my God, I did a homework assignment on how to do this. It's down in the Lost City of the Jedi. So if we just go back to the Lost City of the Jedi and pick up my fucking homework assignment, we'll be able to stop the probe droids so that Triclops won't be transmitting them our secret information. So Ken and Luke go back to the Lost City of the Jedi and they meet up with DJ and they do get the thing, but they also find out that there's a decoy transport that's supposed to lead people down into a random cave. But there was some seismic activity, so now it leads to a giant river of lava. Also, there's a prophecy that's like, yeah, Ken's gonna betray the lost city of the Jedi. Ooh. Meanwhile, Zorba the Hutt wanders out of the desert and manages to get some Jawas to take him to the spaceport. he promptly proceeds to fuck off to talk to the prophets of the dark side, where he gets fed a gigantic meal, gets to screw over the people who betrayed him, and then completely disappears from the plot of this book. He does not appear at any point after that. But he's like, yeah, the Grand Moss totally betrayed everybody. You should arrest and kill them. Actually, no, he is in the trial later. He does show up in the trial, but I think that is his last appearance in this book. Because the Grand Moss get captured, they get put on trial, and Kadan is like, there's literally one point where he instructs the jury, like, well, I can't explicitly tell you to find him guilty, but like, you should definitely find them all guilty. They all get sentenced to death. Basically, they're going to get worked to death at various locations, except for Hissa, who's just going to get fucking murdered because he sucks the most. They also bring up his grinder history again. Like, they show it to the jury, and the jury's like, yeah, you should really kill this guy. Back on Yavin 4, Luke is like, hey, we can build this defense probe, but what if we give Triclops false information? And then they do. And then they're like, well, we need a special mushroom so that we can, like, get this transmitter out because we can't just operate on it for some reason, but we can render it inert. So Ken and Luke and Chewbacca go to get the mushroom, but then Luke and Ken get captured and they are brought to the prophets of the dark side. Kadan takes them back to Yavin 4 because he's looking for the lost city of the Jedi. So they take him to the decoy transport. Kadan is like, well, we're going to test it on Grand Moff Hissa. They send him down the decoy transport. He falls into lava and he burns to death and he dies. Then Kadan is like, okay, we're sending Luke next unless Ken betrays the lost city of the Jedi. And Ken's like, okay, I'll tell you where the lost city of the Jedi is. So they go down there. Also, Ken reunited with his dog thing the first time he went, and then they go the second time, and Kadan, like, has his people hurt the dog. It's really weirdly dark for some reason. It, like, this dog cat thing that follows him around. Anyway, Kadan and Ken and DJ go to this, like, library. Also, Luke is, like, sneaking down through a vent to get to them. So Kadan is like, okay, well, I told you I would tell you about your real father. And Ken's like, yeah, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? And Kadan's like, ha ha ha, no. So your real father is actually Triclops. And your mother was Kindalina, who was this Jedi princess that was mentioned back in book 4. And then he, I'm not making this up, wheels out one of those TVs that you like have on wheels when it's movie time for the classroom and does this grand reveal where he's like, and because Triclops is your father, that means that your grandfather is Emperor Palpatine. And then he shows like an image of Emperor Palpatine on the screen just to really hammer the point home. And he's like, yeah, you're going to be the new emperor, and we're going to teach you the dark side of the Force. But Luke does get down there, and he rescues Ken, and he rescues Ken's cute little dog cat thing. They managed to get up through the turbo lift. Also, all the power in the Lost City of the Jedi was like taken out because Kadan tried to remove the central computer or whatever. But Luke destroys that computer, and then Kadan is trapped down in the cave forever. And Luke and Ken and his dog thing managed to get out. We forgot Chip, apparently. He's just not in any of the later 3 books. I don't know why. And then it ends with Leia walking down the aisle to go get married to Han. Also, Triclops just kind of fucked off. And he leaves a letter that was like, yeah, I've always known you were my kid. Sorry about that. Maybe I'll see you someday. And then he fucks off into the forest. And that's it. That's the plot of this book.
Prophets of the Dark Side.
That's the plot of this book.
Okay, where to begin? Okay,
well, Triclops is fucking bleeding out on the floor.
Okay,
that's
right. We like to start the book off strong with, the cliffhanger of the last book was maybe Triclops will survive, and then they're just like, or Trioculus, and then they're like, nah, we just need to kill him because he's actually not really relevant to the plot anymore. So let's just fucking kill him and be done with it. Okay, fine, I guess, but then why didn't you just kill him in the last book? Honestly, like it really kind of is weird. Like we could have just said he's dead. This one, they had to have him like dying breath die in this one. And it was like, okay. And also, why does he give a fuck about Skywalker? Anyway, I don't know. It's just silly. And then, of course, yes, Ken always has a solution to every problem because Deus Machina Ken, he learned it in a book. He did it as a science project one time. I'm like, he's 12? Like, how old is this kid? Like
12.
Yeah. So how many science projects has he genuinely done? I don't know. Maybe a lot. Apparently enough to solve our droid problem, our probe droid problem. It's like, Okay.
Do your homework, kids. You might be
Yeah.
needed to solve a volcanic problem later on.
So when they go back to the city or whatever, and he sees the parrot dog thing again, I was like, oh, so now he cares about his fucking dog. Like,
Now he cares.
after how many
Completely
books?
forgot about Chip, mind you. Chip,
Oh
I don't
yeah,
think is.
they don't
Hold
even.
on, let me
No,
double check.
he's not
Because
in the
I,
book at all. I'm looking at the, you know how in the beginning it shows you the pictures of everybody? Chip is not in the last two books, or his photo
yeah,
is not in the beginning of the last two.
he's in Mission from Mount Yoda, and he just fucking vanishes after that.
Yeah, he's not important ever again. So, and he's definitely not in the beginning of Prophets of the Dark Side because I'm looking at all the photos. So, but then they bring back DJ or whatever the fuck. Apparently he's important because he runs the city of the fucking robots or whatever.
Yes.
I don't know. So at least they brought him back. But anyway, oh, they also brought back Homework Droid too. So I guess those two were important enough to bring back, but not his best friend droid.
Yeah, fuck Chip.
But Homework Droid is fine.
Homework Droid needs to have a cameo, but fuck Chip, we're never
Yeah.
going to mention him again.
He doesn't even have to talk. He could just be near them the whole time. Like it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like he's just his best friend. So it's like, why isn't he here? Anyway, I don't know. They're just, and then I literally said for chapter 3, I was like, oh, of course, Leia and Han are planning their wedding in the stereotypical way.
Yep.
It's like, why did we insert this? Just, I feel like you wouldn't even call it a C story. It's like the F story of like Han and Leia are gonna get married. Don't forget, like they're gonna get married. They're planning their wedding. Please don't forget that. That's super important for some reason. Okay, yeah, let's make sure Mon Mothma doesn't sit next to, the Mon Calamari or whatever, because they got to sit with Admiral Akbar because we're all the same species and they'll have a better time together, I guess. I don't know. It was just
It's so
why?
random. It's so random. And again, I think it's one of those like we don't know how Star Wars works at this point, and these
Yeah,
are chapter books for kids, so we're defaulting to things that kids like would understand. And like kids are vaguely by the age you're reading the book by 8 or 9 years old, you've been to a wedding.
right.
You understand the concept of a wedding. And if you're living in the suburbs, if you're a middle class kid who's living in the suburbs, you probably have experienced like a relative who has planned for a wedding or a sibling or a cousin or something. Like you've heard about this. I don't know. It's all so like suburbia is the only way I can come up with for these random interludes to the plot where they have like housewarming parties and going to school and all of
Yeah.
that. Like it's random suburbia stuff.
Which would be fine if like I think it's because Skeleton Crew did it in such a way that like made sense. I feel like with this, it's just kind of awkwardly inserted. Like there's no space version of this stuff, so they just kind of are like, we'll just do regular version. Like
Yeah.
that's all it was. Instead of being like, oh, we need to do like a royal Alderaan marriage ceremony or blah blah blah, like something that like would sound like it's from another planet. They just like, no, we're just planning our wedding at the Hilton Hotel. Like it just
Yeah.
doesn't like it doesn't it's not special in any way whatsoever. Like it's just so strange. Like with concepts such as, oh, so and so can't sit next to so and so at this table because XYZ. Like, why would that even need to be a problem in this universe? But whatever. We got to move on because Luke is pretty smart. He plants the false information, which is setting up plot for later on. But they're like, well, to fix that problem, we have to, because Triclops is sleepwalking, and the only way to fix him is to give him mushrooms, magic mushrooms. And so
Yep.
so the way to do that is like, well, we got to go on this side quest for mushrooms, but we got to be back in time for the wedding because the wedding is clearly very important plot of this book, even though it has nothing to do with anything other than they're getting married at the end.
Yeah, the wedding's just an excuse to remove Han and Leia from the plot
I
so that
exactly what it is.
we can do a more kiddie down version of the Emperor confrontation from Return of the Jedi if it was also the Darth Vader revelation scene from Empire Strikes Back. It is what the Kylo Ren and Han Solo thing from The Force Awakens actually did do successfully, which was to capture that same thing, and also the Snoke, Rey, and Kylo from Last Jedi did more successfully. Here it's just like, oh no, we're doing a grand plot revelation.
Right, which was supposedly culminating through the course of these 6 novels.
Oh yes. Yes, they were seeding this
Yes, of course they
plot
were.
twist.
So the trial of the Moffs
I love this scene.
What is
I
the chapter
love
called?
this
Hold on,
scene
wait. The
so
chapter
much.
is specifically called the Moffrents or something. Or no, wait, that's a different thing.
The Moffrents was the last book.
The Moffrents was in the last book. You're right. This is just the
The Moffs have a ship called the Moff ship. And then
right.
when they go, they have a conference, it's called a Moffrence.
Right. And then it's just Trial of the Moffs, I guess, is what it's called. It's just not, they don't have a, oh, wait, here it is. It's, yeah, Trial of the Grand Moffs is what the chapter's called. Anyway, so they put them on trial. My favorite part about this is when, well, two different things. One is, yes, Kadan goes, well, I don't want to tell you exactly like what you said. I don't want to tell you how to vote guilty or not guilty, but I did have a prophecy and I will show you the prophecy that shows you what is going to happen in the future before you guys render your verdict. Let me just show you this piece of paper that has the verdict on it already from the future. They're guilt. Spoiler alert, they're all guilty. And you're all going to vote they're guilty. But don't just vote guilty because I'm showing you this, but because this is a guaranteed future that I have predicted. So the logic is logicking, and they all are like, hell yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, yeah, it sounds good. We should probably vote guilty. Yeah. So they do, and then he sentences them in the most ridiculous way. We have to mention every planet we've ever mentioned in Star Wars. So naturally, you're gonna go to Hoth. You're gonna go over here and like whatever. I don't even remember all three of them. They were all really silly. And of course, one of them naturally has to be Mushroom Planet number three because that's where Luke and Ken are gonna end up going to. So we
Yeah, they're
have to have
dropping
that one.
this guy off, which is why the prophets of the dark side are there to have Luke and Ken be handed over to them.
Of
Because they're
course.
dropping one Moff off to do like guard duty until he gets fucking killed by spiders.
Which, man, now that you mentioned spiders, the whole spider bit of
I
giant
didn't even
spiders,
mention the whole spider bit
I know
is
you
how they
skipped
get
over
captured.
it, but I literally, my
Because
only
it's
note was,
utterly irrelevant to the plot. So they
I
arrive at
literally
this
said
planet
that.
to get the mushroom, and then they fight spiders, and then they
Yes.
get captured by spiders, and then the stormtroopers find them, and that's how they get captured.
Yeah, I was like, what is the point of this? Anyway, spiders are here. It's the same scene from Lord of the Rings, but worse. And then it's just giant spiders, whatever. There's not much
They
you can really
didn't
do
they
with that.
didn't think to call them Addercop, which as we know famously spiders hate being called Addercup.
By the way,
Uh,
this is also
that's from The
the
Hobbit. That's a Hobbit joke.
This is also the second time we've seen giant insects in this series because in Mission to Mount Yoda or whatever, they're giant beetles or whatever the fuck are attacking them in that one. So we love giant insects for some reason in this series. Then Hissa gets his punishment. I forgot to mention, where they're like, yeah, let's just throw him in lava. There's no rhyme or
Well, they're gonna
reason,
kill him a
but
different way, and then
right.
Kadan's like,
Let me come up
actually,
with something
we're
more
gonna
fun.
kill him anyway. Let's send him down the tube first,
Sure.
and then he gets dumped into the lava.
They're like, ah, yes, that was a trap after all.
We'll send Luke down next if Ken
Yeah,
doesn't betray everybody.
right. But to convince Ken to betray, I guess, the city and save Luke, he pulls out Annie's locket from the Broadway play Annie, where he has the other half of the locket that Ken is wearing around his neck. And he's like, look, I have the same locket that your parents had. And then he clicks them together and they make a perfect match
Yeah, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'll tell you who your parents were when we get down to the
when we
lost
get down to
city."
the city.
That's
Right.
how he does it.
Which great. So let's talk about the reveal because he pulls up Google Chrome and he's like, "Here, let me just type in who are Ken's parents on the Jedi computer." And then up pops Kendalina. Shocker. Her name is Kendalina,
I was
even as Ken.
genuinely shocked that you didn't remark on this last episode.
I may have like slightly said something. It's just a little suspicious and weird that the person who saved Ken and dropped him off at the city of the Jedi or whatever was named Kendalina and didn't think it was that creative, but sure. It's actually almost a bit of a spoiler. Like if you actually like read into it too much, you're like, oh wait, that's obviously his mom. Anyway, it's just really strange. But so yes, Triclops and Kendalina got together and had Ken, which I have a couple problems. So first of all, what is a Jedi princess?
No idea this was before the prequels and we didn't know what a Jedi was.
Okay, great. I think it's the same reason why we're calling him Jedi Prince. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just
It's 1992 and we
it's
don't know what a Jedi is.
got it. Okay. So there's that. Triclops had this kid. Ken. And then so Ken's like, "Oh no, I'm a Palpatine. I mean Rey. I mean also a Palpatine.
Yeah.
Wait,
So
just
remember
kidding.
how I've been seeding throughout the last couple of episodes that Ken is just Ray if Ray was a 12-year-old boy,
It's the
and
same
also
plot.
wit way worse.
It's the same. Yeah.
It's
It's
the
the
same
same.
plot.
Well, it's the same beats. It's like the same like no, it's basically the same plot. I it just it's but worse.
It's
Yes,
basically
it's
exactly the same plot, but
exactly the
worse.
same but worse. At least Rey's dad didn't have a third eye randomly and she wasn't dropped off at a Jedi city. She was dropped off in the desert, but
At least Ray fucking does something with this information. She
yes.
has a character journey as a result of learning that she is Palpatine's granddaughter. This impacts her in some way. All Ken does is he gets upset about it and then he eventually uses the Force and then he's fine.
Well, it's almost worse than that because like literally by the end, it's like, okay, so Ken's like, oh my God, I'm gonna be evil now because I'm a Palpatine. And Luke's like, no, my dad's Darth Vader and I'm fine. And then he's like, but we don't have time to worry about that. We have to get to a wedding. Oh, and also they randomly throw in Triclops has escaped and wrote a letter to Ken, and Ken's like, I'm gonna keep this letter to myself. I'll let you read it someday, but I'm not gonna, it's for me personally, and I'm gonna hold on to this. Where Triclops is just like, yeah, I'm your dad. I know. Bye. Like
Yep.
what?
And Zorba
What?
the Hutt just kind of gets away.
Oh yeah, he just gets off scot-free,
He
which
re-
great.
he gets off scot-free. He has no repercussions to his actions.
Throughout the whole entire story. He's great. And he basically got rid of his competition the whole time, like, because everybody basically dies by the end of this. I mean, well, it's alluded to that Kadan and the prophets are all stuck in the Jedi City with all the information, but they're stuck there theoretically. So they can't get out, hopefully. But maybe they will, maybe they won't. I guess they seeded that for hopefully another series where maybe Kadan comes back as a major plot point. I don't know. I'm never going to read another book about this, so who knows? But we'll see if he ever comes back. And now is where, okay, that was a fucking weird book because now, wait, hold on, I'm not done. We actually have the wedding of Leia and Han, and I guess while she's either walking down the aisle or whatever, Leia has a force vision, thus alluding to the fact that she definitely does have more force powers than just I can sense people. And then she's like, I'm gonna have two kids. Maybe they're twins, maybe they're not. Maybe they're a boy and a girl, maybe they're not. I don't know. Because then she's like, oh shit, I gotta get married.
They are twins. Their names are Jason and Jaina, and they are born in The Last Command. But
Nice. But we don't know that
presumably, let me check.
yet.
So The Last Command is published in 1992. So yes, by the time this book was written, they would have known that Han and Leia do have two kids. Oh no, it was first published in 1993, but I believe Jason and Jaina are born in Dark Force Rising.
Okay. So either they knew like there was a plot point of that gonna happen at some point.
They knew whether they're born in Dark Force Rising or whether they're born in Last Command. They knew that they're gonna have twins.
Got it.
Dark Empire 2 is published in 1994 to 95. So I don't think they knew at this point there was going to be a third kid.
Right. But always the future is changing, so you know.
Always in motion, the future is.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Yes, but the line about the twins is a reference to Jason and Jaina, who are
Got it.
going to
Okay,
be
okay, okay.
born in the Thrawn trilogy.
So yeah, that's Prophets of the Dark Side. Great.
So obviously this created some problems for the expanded universe going forward. Because they've been
Yeah.
had to deal with these books.
Well, because you said these are like basically all they've established at this point. So whatever happened in
Mhm.
these books is kind
They
of
have the
like
77
law at this
comics.
point.
Yeah, they have the 77 comics. And the 77 comics, for the most part, they ignore a lot of the pre-Empire Strikes Back ones.
Mhm.
And they kind of were ignoring the between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi ones. Right up until they would suddenly become really important when they bring a major antagonist back for Legacy of the Force. But we can't talk about that. But yes, this is around the point where they start going, okay, we're actually going to get serious. All of our stuff coming out is going to kind of work together. Because we have Dark Horse
Right.
publishing the comics, we have Bantam publishing the books, we have Lucasfilm Games. We're going to make sure that they're at least somewhat coherent. Obviously, This was a hard one to make
Yeah,
somewhat coherent.
because how do
Uh,
you reconcile some of the plot threads that they have dangled now, like at the end of this
some
book?
of it you do and some of it you don't. So I've done a little bit of research into
Okay.
this. For starters, one thing to keep in mind, Ken literally never comes up again.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask you
He is
was, yeah.
completely dropped. He is mentioned in several like character encyclopedias
Okay.
and like complete character guides and things like that. But he never turns up again in any of the stories. He's not even mentioned again. Just functionally, he doesn't exist
Weird.
after, yeah.
This, you mean the grandson of Emperor
The grandson
Palpatine?
of Emperor Palpatine is just kind of out there somewhere the whole time. He
Just
is
doing
never
whatever.
mentioned
Doing
again.
fuck all, who knows? Who was the actual protege of Luke Skywalker for a short time. Just fucks off. We never hear from him again. Who's clearly best friends with the OG trio, because he hangs out with them
Yep,
constantly.
he is never mentioned again.
Who's also a child.
Reconciling a lot of this with the broader expanded universe was a very difficult task.
Sure.
For starters, Han and Leia do not get married at the end of this book trilogy. That had to be retconned to be like, well, the writing was interrupted halfway through because they actually do get married again in the courtship of Princess Leia.
So what the fuck was this? Their pre-engagement party? Like,
This was a wedding that got interrupted. The fact that they almost got married and it got interrupted is never mentioned again, like in the
okay.
media itself. It's just randomly ignored by the time we get to Courtship of Princess Leia, which came out a year later. Courtship of
Okay.
Princess Leia came out in 1994. Prophecy of the Darkside came out in 1993.
So they kind of get married, but then they really get
They
married for
they
real.
start to get married and then it gets interrupted, and then the entire plot of several years pass,
Right.
and then they get married for real in Courtship of Princess Leia.
Okay. Love that.
So obviously we had to retcon that ending. A couple of the things are going to come up in Legends. The Hodin species, the tall species of healers,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
they will get mentioned again.
Oh yeah, because whatever the fuck
Project
happened to him.
Project Decoy, he's in
He's in the last one, I think.
Queen of the Empire
Yeah, for like a second.
for
But
like a second.
which, by the way, they just kind of were like, oh yeah, he escapes Triclops, and then we saved him, and then now he works for the rebellion or
Yep.
whatever. Okay, great.
So Project Decoy is mentioned again in the New Jedi Order Force Heretic 2 Refugee. So Project Decoy, parts of that research is used in that novel.
Okay.
So that's used again. Then there's the problem of Kadan.
Yeah, who was just trapped in the lost city of the Jedi.
Well, so here's the thing. I'm going to quote from the Wikipedia article on the Jedi Prince series. Quote, a retcon in the unlicensed Polyhedron 103 magazine stated that the Jedi Prince series had in fact been a children's story of the actual events told by Leia Organa Solo to her children Jason, Jaina, and Anakin. However, this retcon was later ignored in the Darkside source book, which retconned the story to be true, but with numerous fixes. One of the most prominent, that the Kadan featured in the series was a con artist hired by Imperial intelligence, and the prophets of the Darkside were pretenders working for the Church of the Darkside. The original Kadan never appeared in the novels. End quote.
So this was fake Kadan.
Okay, so a unlicensed RPG magazine
Yes.
said this series was a bedtime story told by Leia to her kids.
Right.
And then an RPG source book said, no, 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 it was true, but there was some stuff happening, like this was a con artist, this wasn't the real Kadan.
Right.
And then there was an article that was published in Star Wars Insider number 16 by Daniel Wallace and Abel Pena. Cool dude, by the way. It tried to deal with all of that.
Sure.
Largely, the EU came down on the side of Kadan was a real guy, but this guy was not actually Kadan that got trapped in the lost city of the Jedi.
Got it. So the real one shows up, I guess, later on somewhere else.
So he's only mentioned within the context of the media itself. He's only mentioned in Luke Skywalker in the Shadows of Mindor, but there's a lot of material that's written about him.
Okay.
So it's a lot of like insider articles and stuff.
Gotcha.
So that's how they sort of deal with that. They also spend a lot of time trying to deal with Triclops.
Right, because he just fucked off.
According to Wikipedia, it eventually comes down on the side of no, he was actually Palpatine's real son. We don't know who the mom is.
And then Triclops just kind of fucks off and we don't have ever
Charles
hear
just
from
kind
him
of fucks
again.
off, and I don't think we ever see him again.
Got it. Well, we see him in Rise of Skywalker when he drops off Rey on Jakku when he
Let me double check my work because I don't want to get this wrong.
actually,
That he, in fact, never turns up again.
I doubt it. I
Uh,
mean,
yeah, no,
he's just done. Well, they don't care about the grandkid. Why would they care about the son?
nope, he's just done after this.
So, okay, how do we re-retcon the retcon of the retcon? Um,
I don't know, man. Look, when people try to complain about, oh, there's all these canon errors in the new Disney canon or
yeah.
whatever, Legends was so much more coherent. No, the fuck it wasn't.
No, it was
You are
not.
stupid. You are both stupid and wrong.
And you have not read them, clearly.
No, the fuck it was not coherent.
I can't. They read
It
one
was
article one
contradictory to
time.
itself all the time.
Yeah, no, this
Oh
is
my lord.
crazy. This
I'm
series
I'm
is ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure I was listening to the abridged audiobook versions of Jedi Academy trilogy, which takes place several years after this. I do believe I caught reference to Yavin having previously been burned in
Great.
that. So I do think that reference this series. And finally, I saved the best bit of how does this fit into canon for last.
Okay, great.
Your buddy, Zorba the Hutt.
Oh God.
It is eventually revealed in articles on wizards.com that the Hutts, as a group, the Hutt Grand Council, determined that will and testament that he showed was a fake.
Oh my God.
And they stripped him of all of his property and divvied it up amongst his relatives. And he just sort of disappeared.
Oh, they
But not
sigh.
forever.
Okay.
Because Zorba the Hutt would return in the Clone Wars novelization
Ooh.
by Karen Travis.
Okay.
He is mentioned. And then he is mentioned in the model sheet for one of the Twi'lek headdresses in the episode Hunt for Zero from the Clone Wars, before finally officially getting brought into canon as a character. No word on whether he is Jabba's father, but as a character in Star Wars Smuggler's Guide.
Okay.
So Zorba the Hutt is canon.
Love that.
So that was a lot
Yeah.
of information for you on how does these book series fit into the broader canon
So they don't,
of
is
the
what you're telling
EU.
me.
They do and they don't. It's very complicated.
Okay, so you basically just wasted my time making me read all these books and they mean nothing.
I did it for the content and I did it for my personal edification, and I did it because now you're armed, Bradley. You're armed with the knowledge of what happens in these books. So every time one of these things happens in a Star Wars Forever, you will be able to turn to your friend or your family or your date or whoever you are with when you are consuming the media and go, let me tell you about the time that they saved the whales in the glove of Darth Vader.
Have you ever heard of the story of the glove of Darth Vader, the Wise?
Have you
No.
heard the tragedy
The tragedy.
of the Dark Prophet Kadan, who
There you go.
wasn't actually the Dark Prophet Kadan? He was a con artist
I
because
cannot.
they had to establish that in Star Wars Insider.
Okay, so well, now that I'm armed with this knowledge that is plaguing my brain, I am going to one day, I feel it in my bones. I can look into the prophecies of ChatGPT and I can tell you that if I'm ever on a Star Wars set or near a Star Wars writer of any way, shape, or form, I'm going to be like, so, you guys ever thought about putting Trioculus in this? You guys ever thought about putting the glove of Darth Vader anywhere near this? You want to throw that
Well,
in
let me
there?
let me ask you, Bradley, because it leads actually nicely into what the majority of the rest of the year is going to be spent covering.
Okay,
So this never got followed up on.
right.
There was never a 7, 8, and 9. There was some discussion that there might be a 7, 8, and 9. There was never a 7, 8, or 9 to round this entire series out. If you were going to continue either in the EU continuity or you were going to try to do something from this in canon, how would you like to see this continued?
Well, obviously, I mean, I want to just do a whole brand new original series that takes place after Return of the Jedi, and we'll just recanonize all six books and then keep it going as a regular cartoon TV show. That way, you can have Han, Luke, and Leia in it, and nobody's going to cry because they're going to be like, oh, it's not Mark Hamill doing young Luke yet again, like with a CGI face. Like, no, we're going to do a original cartoon that is the Glove of Darth Vader Jedi Prince series. But it's we're just gonna recanonize all we're gonna use this as our blueprint. We're not gonna do even remotely half of the things the same way because it's convoluted. It makes no sense. However, I think the beats are there. I think there are parts of that we can use. Yes, we have to kind of change the whole plot of Ken is a Palpatine. Or do we? I don't know. Maybe we can keep it the same and nobody's going to care because it'll just be now Rey has a little brother or some shit, right? Like we'll do or like a cousin or
Older
something.
brother.
Or
Older
older.
brother.
You're right, because it would be 30 years before. You're right. Okay. So
Yeah, he'd be like
actually,
20 years older than she is.
because then that would lead really nicely into the plot of the Rey movie where she meets up with older Ken and is like, oh my God, you're my cousin slash brother slash clone thing. Because I don't really, because I guess her dad is a strand cast of Palpatine. Triclops is his biological son, maybe.
Where it
So,
came down, the last published piece of thing that I could find did
yeah.
say that yes, Triclops is in fact Palpatine's actual legitimate son.
Okay.
Yes, in fact, Ken is Palpatine's biological grandson.
So then this is my pitch is that Triclops does exist. He is a thing, right? He is technically brothers with Rey's father. They're not really brothers because he's a Strandcast, but they're, biologically similar, but they're not bio brothers in that sense. But that's how Rey will be related to Ken, and then they will meet up in the future, and he will be this super powerful Jedi Prince, and she's gonna be like, "Whoa, that's crazy! You've been around this whole time. Why the fuck didn't you help me with the First Order?" And then he's gonna be like, "Sorry, I was in another universe because Dave Filoni created yet another one, and then that's where I was this whole time." And that's what Starfighter's about. They had to get to the other universe. Ryan Gosling is just a guy who just gets all caught up in this nonsense, and yeah, that's how I'm gonna continue this stupid story.
I, yeah, for me, like, it does actually bother me a little bit. I wish that, because these books were treated as such a joke
Yeah,
for a long, long, long time, which they're ridiculous.
sure.
And it is fun to like what we have been doing for this podcast to go in and be like, ah, this is an utterly ridiculous book series. Like it's insane. I do kind of wish that in the old EU there would have been some follow up to Ken because they do follow up on Kadan. They
Right.
do reconcile that. They never follow up on Ken, which, given that about 5 years, actually, no, about 10 years later, Luke creates his Jedi Praxium, his Jedi Academy on
Right.
on Yavin.
Of
The
course.
Jedi Academy is located on Yavin
Where
4,
Ken lives.
where Ken lives.
Or lived.
But Ken is not mentioned at any point in it. We don't know
Yeah.
what happened to him, despite the fact he has the Force, and the fact that Luke is like desperate to find people to put in his academy. We don't, to my knowledge, know what happened to him.
Right.
And I wish that we'd had gotten a little bit of follow up in the EU on what happened to this kid. Because he does have a lot of potential as a character
No, for sure.
once the big reveal has happened
I agree.
that he is Palpatine's grandson. There's a lot of potential here, particularly given how many people are vying for Imperial control at this point. One of the retcons I didn't mention was why the Grand Moffs are putting up Trioculus, why they need a fake one. And it's because a woman named Ysane Isard is consolidating her power, and she's about to take out Sly Moore and take over Coruscant. And they want to try to siphon off loyalists. Like that was something that was retconned in. So I kind of wish that we've gotten more, despite how ridiculous he is written in these books.
Yeah.
I wish that we could have figured out what happened to Ken when he's older.
Yeah, I feel like it's
Especially,
a natural like book series. Like just do one that only focuses on him.
Well, bring him back in New Jedi Order. New Jedi Order brought a lot of basically New Jedi Order took a lot of the plot elements that had been established because to continue on. So after these books are written, you have this sort of period where Bantam has a couple of authors and they're writing these books, but they're mostly between 1 and 3 book adventures. So you might have a one-off like Children of the Jedi, it's kind of part of a trilogy, but not really, or a one-off like the Crystal Star, or you might have something like the Corellian trilogy or the Jedi Academy trilogy. They did build on each other, but there was not like one. The plot elements would just come and go. And New Jedi Order was the first time that they sat down and they said, okay, we're going to take everything that we've built in the universe so far, and we're going to do one big multi-book storyline, last for 19 novels, and we're going to do it. And I wish that he had turned up in that, or that they had used that as an opportunity to have him be like even just minorly mentioned in some way. But yeah, they just
Right.
never bring this kid up again.
It's a shame. I think even if you kept it as just a young adult novel series or something like that, I feel like it would have worked really well during the time that these came out. Like these are definitely, I would argue, these are like younger adult novels. Like
These
these
are
are
chapter
genuinely,
books.
yeah, these are
Chapter books, I
genuinely.
believe, is the term.
Oh, chapter books. Okay, so these are chapter books for kids. I think the natural progression of this would have been to do a true young adult series that would be for more teens and, that age group. I think that's one thing. I don't know if until they've done the New Republic, or the High Republic stuff, I don't know if they've ever really done anything like major young adult series for Star Wars.
Major, not really. For young adult books, with regards to canon, they started pretty much right off the bat because young adult as a subcategory didn't exist in the same way as it exists nowadays. So by the time Disney took over and canon started in 2015, then you're getting things like Lost Stars, which I don't think is a particularly interesting or intriguing book, but fine. It's every young adult novel I've ever read, but they turn to the camera every 5 minutes to reveal that they're just off screen from Star Wars. It's fine, but like part of the thing with the young adult novels that were coming out to start out with when canon started was that they were trying to tell these sort of stories about young people in that market. So you had Lost Stars, then you had like Leia Princess of Alderaan, which I thought was much better. It was an excellent novel, but like they were publishing them at the time these books were coming out, and even through the 2000s the idea of publishing like a Star Wars book that was a quote unquote YA book or like a book for like teenagers wasn't something that was seen as common because I think they just assumed teenagers were going to read the adult book, that if you were going to buy into Star Wars because it's such a niche book, if you're reading New Jedi Order, Jedi Force Heretic 2, Refugees, you've bought in. If you're old enough to read and comprehend the book, you've bought in. And they did have several very successful, like middle grade book line, like the Jedi Quest books, Jedi Apprentice books, Rebel Force, Young Jedi Knights, all of that. They did do those. Galaxy of Fear, which I did get a comment that you and I should cover Galaxy of Fear, Bradley, but I don't think you're ready for that.
I'm
So we're
not
not.
ready for
We're,
anything Legends ever again. This has been a trying on my brain. This is
but really, to answer your question, YA books don't exist in the
yeah.
EU because at the time, the YA market didn't exist in the same way.
Right. It's
And it
not like
was
it is now.
only, in my opinion, it was really Twilight that changed the game in the mid 2000s for people to sit up and take notice that a lot of teenagers were reading books. And
Right.
like a book could be a mega smash hit if teenagers got into it, which is then you start getting that one and the Hunger Games. And that once the Hunger Games comes out as a mega smash hit, then you start getting the dystopian teen novels,
Right. Those just kept
and that
popping out
helps
of nowhere.
builds
Yeah.
the sort of YA genre that currently exists
Right.
as it stands. And so by the time Disney took over in 2015, now we have an actual YA market and we're going to write these books. But also, honestly, I'm racking my brain trying to think of the YA Star Wars novels besides Lost Stars and Leia Princess of Alderaan that made an impression on me. There's
I
not a lot of
mean,
them.
now, so what you're telling me is we need to write a new young adult novel series starring not Ken, but Kendalina,
Yes, give us the
as the
adventures of Kendalina, Jedi Prince.
Kendalina.
Okay,
We'll
Christ.
retcon Ken
We
into
got it. And
Kendalina.
we got to end these episodes. We got
Yes,
to
how do we end
end these
this?
episodes. I don't fucking know. What are we covering? Well, we're taking 2 weeks off.
Right.
Because of Legacy Expo, and then your work is getting...
Yeah, I'm almost done. So I gotta just a few more weeks and then I can get out of here.
Yes,
so
and
we'll
you're literally flying back on a Monday that we normally would have an episode come out.
Right, so we're gonna push.
We're gonna take a week off for me to do Legacy Expo. Then we're gonna take a week off for Bradley to vacate over the course of that weekend and not have to worry about recording and editing. And then when we come back, what are we doing?
I think we decided we're gonna do Tales of the Underworld.
We're doing Tales of the Underworld, yes.
Yes, okay.
We're back to canon. I'm not gonna make Bradley read Legends for a while.
Right.
We'll get to it eventually, but for now we still have plenty of content. I hope everybody enjoyed this little digression into the Jedi Prince series. I'm glad we all now have to know this information.
Unfortunately, we do.
Justice for Chip.
Justice for Kendalina. Justice for Zorba the Hutt. Justice for fucking Ken. Justice for Trioculus.
Justice for fucking Trioculus, yeah.
Right, honestly, because that's who I want to see come back to canon. Like, I don't care how they do it. Bring him back. Bring him the fuck back.
Well, you can watch a whole bunch of reality TV that Bradley is involved with, including such shows as Married to Medicine, Temptation Island, Queen's Court, King's Court, and The Circle. Watch them if you like reality TV. It keeps Bradley employed. You can read books that I write on Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, and you can request them through your library. Those are gay crime thrillers called Beach House Studios. I'm also involved in a Star Wars TTRPG podcast show called For Light and Dice. And if you're listening to the sound of my voice, this weekend is Legacy Expo, an expanded universe event in Burbank, California, September 13th through 14th. If you want to come talk to me about the Jedi Prince series, I will be there, losing my mind. Come on down if you're in the Southern California area. All right, Bradley. And you thought we weren't going to pull 3 whole episodes out of this.
Nope, I thought it was only going to be maybe 2 max. But I was wrong.
Your overconfidence was your weakness. Roll the socials. Thank you for listening to Gold Squadron Gaze. Did Charles fuck something up? Email us at goldsquadrongaze@gmail.com and let us know. You can follow us on BlueSky, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Gold Squadron Gaze. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Gold Squadron Gaze, where we post full episodes of this podcast. If you like the podcast, you can also rate us and review us on your favorite podcast app of choice. Please join us next week and every week for another episode of Gold Squadron Gaze.